What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Links and Locks Best Bets podcast presented by Bet365. I'm Jason Sobel from the Action Network. He is Ben Everill from Golf Bet, and we're here to break down our favorite 18 plays, play 18 holes for this week's Travelers Championship. We're going to talk some US Open, do a little review here as well. But before we do anything, we've got to give you a little reminder. The Links and Locks podcast is proudly presented by Bet365, the world's favorite sportsbook brand. Sign up with promo code ACTION, ACTION, to get Bet365's exclusive sign-up offer. Bet $1 on any game, just $1, get $200 in bonus bets. Must be 21 or older. Offer available in Colorado, New Jersey, Ohio, and Virginia in the U.S. Gambling problem? Call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, before we get to the Travelers, Benny, you and I were sitting next to each other for most of the week in the media center, hanging out at LACC. There are a lot of takes, and we won't get into all of them here, but for those who are on Wyndham Clark at a pretty big number, congratulations. You and I did not have that on the pod last week, but we did have some nice plays on there that we were able to cash.
Yeah, mate, look, it was a fun week at LACC. As you said, we didn't really have the Wyndham Clark scenario going, but good luck to him, man. Like, impressive effort to take down the boys over those 4 days and stick solid and prove he is indeed one of the elite this year after also winning at Quail Hollow. Look, we can have a bit of fun. We did pick up on the first round leader. I had Xander Schauffele there. That was pretty cool. And Ricky Fowler was, I think, the smash play for both of us. I had him in the player markets above 39th, and you gave him a run as well. So good to see Ricky doing well, even though it was a bit sad for him not really being in the mix on Sunday. But hey, we go again. Travelers, let's rumble.
Yeah, we get to the Travelers now. By the way, Cam Smith was my pick last week. You and I were watching him very closely. I had some futures on him last week and outrights, and you were Australian, so you like Cam, and you were watching him pretty closely as well. I'm still not convinced that if that was a 5-round event, we decided, hey, it's US Open, it's a big event. Let's play Monday as well, that Cam Smith wouldn't have come back and won that golf tournament. We were very close to being on for that one. So yes, let's get to the Travelers Championship. We go from major to a designated event with all the best players on the PGA Tour, traveling cross country to Connecticut, TPC River Highlands, just around 7,000 yards. We're going to see more birdies than we did last week. I can guarantee you of that. Benny, let's get right to it. Playing 18 holes, you're on the tee at TPC River Highlands, and you can swing away.
Well, here we go. Look, as you said, designated event, big field, big numbers, and we've got to decide, as we've had to a couple of times this year after majors, do you go the chalk? Do you go the guys that are at the top of the board because it's a big field, or should we look for the next Wyndham Clark? Should we look for the guy who's not necessarily the high on the betting boards, but's playing good golf, a good course fit, ready to make a name for themselves? And look, I just went back and look, not a huge trend, obviously, but let's look at who won after the majors. We had Matt Fitzpatrick win at Heritage after the Masters, 28-1, right? Not at the top of the board. Obviously a great player, a major winner, but not at the top of the betting boards. And then we had Emiliano Grillo win at Charles Schwab, 66-1 or so. So just off that, just as a front to hear everyone, I'm staying clear of the chalk after Jason Sobel gave me absolute hell over the week for picking Scheffler last week and almost cashing there, but not getting it done. I'm going to look a little further down the boards and leave essentially the big guys at the top alone after the grind of the US Open. So with that said, first hole, a guy who returned to form at the US Open and who has got me on the bandwagon. He's turning 21 tomorrow on Wednesday. Have his first beer. Apparently Rory McIlroy is going to buy him one. But Tom Kim at 35-1. T8 last week at LACC, came off the back of 2 missed cuts. We know he won in Vegas. He'd been basically, I don't want to say terrible because he's still in the top 20 of the FedEx Cup, but he had not been playing well, definitely not to his standards. But what I saw, the smile back on his face at LACC, and he just has the game that should play well here. He's not played before at TPC River Highlands, but he's 4th on tour in driving accuracy, 8th on tour strokes gained approach. It should be the perfect venue for him. And he opened, this is what I like, opened at 45-1, already into 35-1. Definitely some people feeling the way I do.
All right, a couple things as I get to the second hole. A lot of people on Tom Kim this week.
Mm.
They're like the entire world is on Tom Kim. I don't hate it. I have a Tom Kim play. I usually give you my long shot right off the bat, but I'll segue into my Tom Kim play, which is I've just got a matchup -110 over his buddy Siwoo Kim this week. Nothing wrong with Siwoo. I like Siwoo. Kind of faded down the stretch on the weekend last week, but I'll take a little bit of Tom. I look, for the most part, we've seen it in the past. Matt Fitzpatrick at the US Open last year, and Max Homa a little bit at the Farmers Insurance Open this year. Usually the mob mentality doesn't quite pay off when everybody's on a guy.
Yeah.
It's usually time to get off that guy. Everybody's on Tom Kim this week. Makes me a little skeptical, but he did play very, very well last week, much better than we've seen recently. So, and he's a guy that at least early in his career seems like a momentum type of player. When it's not going well, it continuously doesn't go well for a little while. But when it is going well, he can be really, really good. This is a good course for him, as I said, a short golf course. So yeah, I'm not going all in on Tom this week, but I'll take him over Siwoo in a pretty even matchup this week.
Yeah, like I said, it's his birthday. That could go one of two ways. He could go out and have a very good time, and maybe
Oh,
not necessarily.
poor
Uh,
kid. I say this as a former longtime Connecticut resident.
yeah.
If you've got to spend your 21st birthday somewhere, Hartford, Connecticut's a tough place to go out and celebrate. I mean, I look, there's some great restaurants there. I'm sure I'll have a good time. Maybe Jordan Spieth will be there as well. They've become buddies too. But like, I mean, there's a lot of places you can be for your 21st birthday. Like middle
Yeah.
of Hartford is like,
Not
okay.
sure that was his original choice. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
After the third hole, I'm going to give you a top five player, someone who I think can definitely be in the mix, obviously, to win. Good number to win, considering they were runner-up last year at this event and probably should have won it. The young gun that we've talked about many times in this pod, Sahith Theegala, like desperately close, as I said, to winning last year, sitting in that bunker, just needed, what he thought probably needed a birdie or a par, ended up making a double to lose by 2 to Xander Schauffele. Learned a lot, and it'll bring some fire in his belly from what happened last year. Look, he ranks a very healthy 19th on tour in birdie or better percentage from 150 to 175 yards. If you go into the data golf and whatever else you want to go down the inside baseball sort of references, there are a ton of shots from 150 to 175, way above the tour average at TPC River Highlands. And look, he's also 8th on tour in birdie average. We know he can, if there's going to be a lot of birdies, which this place does bring, he's able to do it. And then look, I tried to find a weakness. I saw that he is not the most accurate off the tee, struggling. But to counter that, going back to that 150 to 175 yards, he's 20th on tour approaches from the rough from that distance. So when he does get in trouble from that distance, he's been able to handle it. Also, inside the top 30 of strokes gained putting. So I think Sahith Theegala is a good play this week. I got him at plus 1,200 for a top 5, but I think he can also contend to win.
Well, I am fully convinced as a massive Theegala backer over the last 2 years that when he does finally win, it'll be a week that I'm not on him. So I'm not on him this week. I think that, again, it's just, I think there's going to be too many people on him. I think that's again another of those popular plays this week. So that means it'll probably happen. I'm convinced that he's, for as much as I bet on him, he's going to finally win when I'm just like not even paying attention to him.
There is the danger of him overplaying the revenge card, trying too hard. That is one thing I'm a little worried about, given how young he is. That's what young players can tend to do, push a little bit too far when they feel like they have a redemption story.
All right, I'm going to get to the fourth hole, and I will start this out by saying I have a bad feeling about this week. And what I mean by that is Scotty Scheffler at plus 600, plus 650. Look, 3 straight top 3s, 5 straight top 5s, 17 straight top 12s. At some point, the ball's going to go in the hole a couple more times a tournament than it's gone in the last few that he's played, and he's going to win by 4. It's going to happen. I am not betting him at that number. I think it's almost impossible to bet him at that number, but I will have him in a lot of DFS lineups. And if Scotty does it this week, look, you just kind of like, give him a little polite golf clap and you say, All right, we'll move on to the next one. My second favorite outright, a guy that I think I can win, that I'll tell you later in the show, has short odds as well. Over the last 3 years, Dustin Johnson, Harris English, who was playing like an elite player at the time, and Xander Schauffele have won. This is no longer necessarily a tournament for the long shot players. That said, I've got a couple of them, and the guy that I like the best is a guy that very nearly won at Muirfield Village 3 weeks ago, got into a playoff, lost to Victor Hovland, but Benny McCarthy on a Northeast golf course. He's a guy from the East Coast. Hasn't played his best golf, but this one should suit him well, where it's a shorter golf course, lots of birdies, get hot with the putter. He's fourth on the PGA Tour in strokes gained putting, and the only thing surprising about that is that he's not in the top three. I think it could be a really good Denny McCarthy week at 80-1. I think it's a nice number to chase.
Well, I'm going to move out of turn here because I'm going to go to my long shot play, move him up from 9th to the 5th hole. Let me just slide that above here. Danny McCarthy, 80-1 is your long shot choice. As I've got written in my preview this week, he's a putting genius. Wouldn't be surprised if he puts the dots off it again this week. Fourth in strokes gained putting, as you mentioned, not far off that playoff loss. 16th scoring average, 7th on tour in scrambling. We know he can go low. I like the number. It's a good one. It also popped on my radar. So there you go. My long shot play this week. If you're looking at that, Danny McCarthy, 80-1.
Yeah, everything about it makes sense. Although, as I'm looking now, doesn't have a great record there, which that part of it, gets to me a little bit. That I'm going to filibuster here and keep talking as I'm looking up Denny McCarthy's record of the Travelers, which is a little surprising that he hasn't been up there. But I do think he's a better player right now than he's been at any other point in his career. We've always talked about him being a really good putter, and those irons have been better. But 2018 finished in 47th. Since then, hasn't gotten any better. 2019 missed cut. 2020 withdraw. 2021 73rd, and last year he missed the cut again. Not too many low numbers, but he does have a couple of 66s and a 67 on the board in the past. So he has shot some decent scores around here. But I do think, like I said, you're playing some good golf right now. It makes sense that it would be a good course for him. All right, get to the sixth hole. And I'm gonna chase a guy who was in contention last week. Mentioned his name a minute ago because he won this golf tournament 2 years ago. Didn't play his best golf on the weekend, but Harris English is trending in the right direction. I love everything we heard from him. The way you're throwing your hands up in the air sounds like you might have some Harris English here as well. I'll take him for a top 5 at plus 1,400 to at least contend once again this week at TPC River Highlands.
Yep. Look, I'll move him right up here. 7th hole now. He's my top 10 play this week. Harris English plus 550 for a top 10. I'll also 5,500 or so to win if you want to go that way. He's back to being a regular contender in these things. And while he might not be winning, he's certainly threatening to win. As you mentioned, a former champion not many years ago, 2021 champion. 3 top 12s in his last 5 tournaments this year, including T8 last week. He was 2nd at Arnold Palmer, 3rd at Wells Fargo, both designated events. And he's putting well, 14th this season in strokes gained putting. So he's one who I remember it was on another podcast, a guest on a DP World Tour one last week. And one of their experts threw up Harris to win last week. And I sort of said, I like him. I said, it's a great play for that top 5, top 10. I don't necessarily think he's going to win down the stretch. And I feel sorry for the guy because I think he had it on an each way over there, which was T6, and I think Harris ended up at T8. So that was a bit of a struggle because it was a big odds play for him. And he was on the money that Harris would play well, and I think that he'll keep that momentum, as I said. And top 10 is a good spot to land for Harris English.
Speaking of bad beats, I know you mentioned Xander Schauffele as your first round leader play on the show last week. I liked Ricky for a lot of different plays. He was not necessarily my first round leader play, but I had a couple of different tickets for first round leaders, and I had him last week. There's no bad beat like having a guy and shoot 62, the first ever 62 at a US Open, and it chops the first round leader ticket. It's like, come on, I can't get paid full for my 62 that I had for the guy. And, Xander goes out and ties Ricky ties Xander, and, you chop it, which is fine. I know some of the books out there will we'll give you full payments instead of chops for those, but that one hurt a little bit. So we get to the 8th hole, and I'm going with my top 10 play. Another dog, another Georgia Bulldog. Russell Henley's this sort of a weird little conundrum right here. I think Russell is underrated. Just we don't talk about him that much. No one really says like how good he is. I think he's really good. And yet he's overvalued in the marketplace. I mean, I'm looking at one book right now where Russell Henley is at plus 3,500. He is the same price as Tony Finau, as Tom Kim. He's shorter than Ricky Fowler and Matt Fitzpatrick and Hideki Matsuyama and Sungjae Im and Max Homa and Cameron Young and Jason Day and Shane Lowry and Justin Thomas. I mean, that's just like Russ. I get it. Justin Thomas was bad last week. I understand that. He's still Justin Thomas. Why is Russell Henley half the price of Justin Thomas? I don't like that. In any case, I do like Russell Henley a lot, though, this week. 8 straight events where he's gained strokes with his irons, 6 in the last 7 with his putter. I've got him for a top 10 plus 350. I think it makes a lot of sense on this golf course. And he would have been probably my favorite outright play for a long shot, except he's not a long shot. He's too short. We don't talk about Russell Henley at all, except, look at him on the board. You're like 35 to 1. That number surprised me.
Yeah, I'm shuffling my board here again, bringing up another player up early. You're hammering me this week.
I was working on all these while we were at the U.S. Open. You were sitting right behind me, and so obviously you were looking over my shoulder still.
Yeah, must have been. I refused to do for the listeners out there. Jason's very, very well prepared. Got in early, was doing his research over the weekend. I was sitting there doing none of that. I was watching the U.S. Open and
I
wishing
had a red eye. Benny, yeah. The difference is you live in LA, you just have to drive home. I had a red eye to catch, and I was not getting work done on that red eye, so I had to work before I left.
Mate, you remember it's LA. You may have gotten home before I did. I was driving in the traffic and you were flying across the country. Anyway, I will move him up 9th hole. This is where the Bet365 player market. Russell Henley is 35 or better in that for minus 120, giving up the juice. But I think he'll have honestly, I think he should finish inside the top 35 pretty easily. His last 3 results on tour are 16, 16, and 14. Winner in Mexico, as we know. Number 1, driving accuracy on tour. That is important at this course, driving accuracy for the most part. And 4 out of 5 times he's played at the Travelers, he's been better than 35th. So that's enough for me to say 35 or better.
All right. Yeah, of course I like that as well. So that makes a lot of sense. As we make the turn here for the Links and Locks Best Bets podcast, a reminder that we are proudly presented by Bet365, the world's favorite sportsbook brand. Sign up with promo code ACTION to get Bet365's exclusive sign-up offer. Bet $1 on any game, get $200 in bonus bets. Must be 21 or older. Offer available in Colorado, New Jersey, Ohio, and Virginia in the U.S. Gambling problem? Call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, we get to the 10th hole. It is my tee. And I will tell you, if there's one rule, the one hard and fast rule I have about gambling, it's never bet on anybody named Ben. And yet I've got 2 of them here on the board for my 10th play. First round leader, I'm going to split it up a little bit here. I'm taking a couple of long shots in some guys who have posted some nice rounds on Thursdays already this year. Ben Griffin and Ben Martin for first round leader. Look, I know, Betty, you like taking guys who are closer to the top of the board, getting a little value on a big name player. I'm just like, I like the variance of a first round and just could be anybody. Let me get a couple of long shots. 2 guys named Ben. And oh, by the way, for the next hole, I've got another Ben as well. So I've got a whole lot of Bens on my list. That's never a good thing, Ben.
Yeah, that's always a great thing. It's a sensational name, sensational players. Yeah, of course. Maybe I should just jump on board with you on that, just sensational stuff. But I'm going to go to, I guess, one of the more chalky things I do have out of my week. I said I wasn't going to do much chalk, but my top 20 player this week is only plus 100 for a top 20. And here it's because I'm going to go with Colin Morikawa. He's the guy that I wanted to fade at the US Open because of his back issues at the Memorial. And essentially he convinced me that I should stay on his good side after he fought back. It was a very plucky fight back to T14 last week when he was trending towards a miscut. He's fourth on tour for birdie or betty's percentage from that 150, 175, second in strokes gained approach, fifth tee to green and driving accuracy. The reality is he has a almost perfect stat line to win at TPC River Highlands. Yeah. And if it wasn't for the back issue, I'd probably be more gung-ho and pushing him further up. So if you want to go across the board, I'm not against it. But yeah, that's where I saw just a slight bit of value, plus 100 for a top 20, because I think it's the perfect place, even though he hasn't been there and done it in the past much, that Colin Morikawa should play well at.
It makes sense. It's a great Morikawa course. He's played better, played well over the years at shorter golf courses, so that makes sense. I'm going to skip over my top 20 here as I get to the 12th hole, and I'm going to stick with this one just because it's another guy named Ben. It's amazing. I have 3 Bens on my list this week. Benny Everall. Do you know who Ben James is?
No idea.
All right, good. I got one here. Ben James was the freshman of the year at University of Virginia. He was an All-America. He is already the number 4 ranked amateur in the entire world. And he happened to grow up in Milford, Connecticut, which isn't a whole lot too far from TPC River Highlands. Okay. We've seen amateurs play well at this golf tournament in the past for whatever reason. Going back to Patrick Cantlay in, I think, 2009 when he almost shot a 59. Michael Thorbjornsen last year finished in 4th place. I don't know that Ben James is going to go that low, but I will take him for a top 40 in his home state at plus 333, which I think is a really good number on a kid that not too many people know much about yet.
Yeah, look, and this tournament's renowned for giving young college stars their breakout starts. You know, I just mentioned Morikawa. I just mentioned, you know, the guys like Hovland, back when Matt Wolff was around. You know, look, these guys were Justin Suh, I believe, is another one that may have got one of his early starts at the Travelers. That is definitely their MO. They try to showcase the upcoming talent with their sponsors exemptions, etc. So it is definitely a good week to look into the new wave of talent coming through. And on that note, I'm going to give you mentioned amateur golf rankings. I'm going to give you a former world number 1 amateur at plus 220 for a top 40. Now, this is nothing but a data pick, right? Because he has been out for a long time after having minor surgery on his knee with a torn meniscus. He was on fire for a rookie, comparatively speaking. Up to that point, his last start was a T7 at Pebble Beach before that scenario. But Kevin Yu, plus 220 for a top 40. He is a value pick given his stats. He was ranking and still is 4th on the tour, strokes gained off the tee, 9th tee to green, 2nd greens in reg, 41st driving accuracy, 2nd on tour between 150 and 175. Why don't you know his name? As I said, only played 10 times this season, but was playing well. That surgery is what's kept him out. If on his comeback he is healthy, this is a good number. Now, I say it like that because if he comes back and he's fine, he's going to play well. He's going to, and then their books will catch up and realize, oh, actually, yeah, he is this good. He is having. Now, if the knee is a problem, then, you know, I don't know this for sure. I don't know him well enough to know how much that has affected him coming back, but I just see it as a good opportunity to take the odds while you can get them.
Look, this guy is a statistical anomaly. We've joked about Kevin Yu on the pod before because you look at some of the ball striking stats on the PGA Tour and you start going down the list and it's like Scotty Scheffler, John Rahm, Patrick Cantlay, Kevin Yu, and you're like, what, who? Wait, what? And you look at the ball striking number, you're like, how come he hasn't done more? Like, has he never made a putt outside of 3 feet? Like, I don't understand how he hasn't had some big finishes, but you're right. He's been out for a while now. That is a name I don't have this week, but as he starts to return, like my eye is definitely going to be on him. You might be right about jump on him now so that it's not too late. I could see a Taylor Pendrith sort of return. Last year, remember, Taylor Pendrith, who's not playing his best golf right now, but last year, he got hurt at the Players' Championship, missed about 3.5 months, came back in the last 5 or 6 starts of the season. I don't think he was outside the top 20 in any of them. So I can see something very similar for Kevin Yu coming back from that injury. All right. We get to the 14th hole, and I'll give you my top 20 here. A guy who finished exactly tied for 20th last week. We saw him win at the Zurich Classic with his buddy Davis Riley. Nick Hardy is starting to play some good golf. He was third here not that long ago. So this is a guy that's played well at TPC River Highlands in the past. I like his game a lot. Once he starts rounding into form, this is going to be a guy that I think we're going to see on some leaderboards. So I will take him in a place where he's played well already. Top 20 at plus 500, which is a nice number considering he was top 20 just a week ago at the US Open.
Yeah, not bad at all. I do remember mentioning him when he popped up on that leaderboard with you over the week. Like, keep an eye on that guy. I forgot to look him up myself, so I guess I'll leave that one to you. 15th hole, I'll go to the first round leader market. You've said your man. You've gone with the Benz. I love it. Good stuff. But this, as you also mentioned, I tend to like to go to the, I guess, chalkier players and try to get them off to a good start. This is where you briefly mentioned his 60 as still a kid, 5 consecutive top 15s at this event, 9th in driving accuracy, and Patrick Cantlay, 25-1 is a potential first round leader play here for me. I do have it on good authority. He'll play in the morning on Thursday, so that is also good news. Generally speaking, get out early while the going's good. Also, you could, for better odds, go to his mate, 35-1, Xander Schauffele, who picked up for us last week. The reason he's better odds is because if you watch Sunday, not only did he fade, but he couldn't hit the side of a barn off the tee. He was duck hooking it left. He was having all sorts of trouble. I'd like to think that was just an anomaly, and he's ironed that out on the range, and he's fine. So you do get better value on Xander, who does have a better first round scoring average than Cantlay as well. So Schauffele is still a play this week.
I have never seen Xander drive it the way he did for a couple of those rounds at LACC, but I do agree with you that that'll come back. He was hanging out at ESPN today, by the way. So I'm sure a lot of my old friends got a chance to meet and hang out with Xander. I'm going to tell you about Patrick Cantlay in just a minute. That's how we do it. 16th hole. We look at the player finishing position market at Bet365, and almost always you and I will find some numbers. We're like, well, that's too low. That guy's going to finish better than that. Ricky Fowler is one that you had last week at 39th or better. I mean, that was never even a sweat. Very rarely can I find somebody that I want to sell, that I look in that marketplace and I go, boy, I just don't see him doing it this week. And for very obvious reasons, no, it's not the guy you're showing me there. Very obvious reasons, I'm going to fade a guy this week. And I think he's just fine being faded because he's carrying around that big trophy. He doesn't need to lug that thing around for 4 days. Maybe just 2 in Connecticut is enough. Look, Wyndham Clark had never even challenged for a major championship before. He's now got a US Open trophy. It's a long week. There's a lot going on for Wyndham Clark. I would not be surprised if his tank is completely on empty by the time he gets to Connecticut and he doesn't have it. He is listed at Bet365 for 45th or worse this week. And I could just see him, like, not that I'm saying he's going to mail it in, but he's already missed the cut 3 times in 5 starts in the past when he's trying to play his best golf. Going out there this week, it's like, I'll put it this way. He won't really be hurting that much if he doesn't go deep. The Travelers this week. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. It's a huge week. He's doing the rounds. He's going to be super, like, the adrenaline dump is going to come. And as much as you're pumped and as much as you're playing great golf, it's a hard one to respond to, especially if it is going to be 19 under or 20 under. Like, hey, you've got to come out and shoot 6 under, despite the fact that this has all been going on in your life. That can be tough. All right, 17th hole. Well, I was going to give my line at the start, and then I realized I'd be giving away my other pick, but I said Tom Kim at the start, and I'm saying it's Tommy time. Tommy Fleetwood. Boosted at Bet365 to 40-1 instead of the 28-1 you get at most places. Look, recaptured some of his best form of late, and I'm on board. Had a chance to break the PGA Tour drought 2 weeks ago at the Canadian Open, only to fall to the local hero, Nick Taylor, who had to make a monster eagle to do that. He followed it up by closing at the US Open with a 63, Nice T5 finish there. Probably should have had a 62. We've seen that before from him at US Opens as well, which is a little bit of a worry. Those close putts when it's all there on the line. But look, he's only played there twice at River Highlands. He was T13 though. One of those times he did. The course demands the high percentage of approach shots from 150 to 175, like I said earlier, and he's 15th on tour and birdie or better percentage from that distance. I don't know. I love his caddy too. He's such a character, and I think they're just locked in and primed. And I didn't want to, as I said at the start, I didn't want to go down the very chalk side. I wanted to look at guys in that sort of sweet spot mid tier that are still great players, and I think it's Tommy time.
Tommy Fleetwood, 7th on the PGA Tour this season in total strokes gained, which I always say is the greatest barometer of performance. And so, yeah, he's playing some great golf. I'm going to take the guy that's one spot ahead of him in that category, though. And that is a guy that you mentioned a few minutes ago, Patrick Cantlay. Look, as I said earlier in the pod, I believe this is going to be one that's won by one of the big names. I get it. Shorter golf course maybe levels the playing field a little bit. But over the last 3 years, Dustin Johnson, Harris English, Xander Schauffele have been the winners. We're not seeing too many long shots in Connecticut anymore. I like Scotty Scheffler, but I can't bet him at twice the or half the odds of Patrick Cantlay this week. So Patrick Cantlay is my guy at plus 1,200. I think he goes out and he's ready to win. It's a bit of a statistical anomaly in the fact that he's got 5 top 15 finishes at this event.
Yeah.
And no top 10s. They're all between 11th and 15th. Kind of weird, but like I said, he's ready to go out and win something. I think it happens this week. And so I'm going with Cantlay there. And Benny, that's all we got. Breaking down the Travelers Championship. We appreciate everybody out there for listening to this edition of the Links and Locks Best Bets podcast. Remember, you can find us everywhere you find your favorite podcast. Download, subscribe, rate, and listen every single week during the entire PGA Tour season. For Ben Everill, I'm Jason Sobel. Good luck with all your bets for this week's Travelers Championship. Here's hoping you hit the green.